instantly I was breathing again. And I was breathing, and I was like, okay, great. I'm I'm good. Thank God. I don't know what in the heck just happened, but I'm good. And I'm just breathing, and I'm happy, and I'm like, all right, I'm taking these giant breaths in. And then as I'm doing that, I'm, I'm kind of looking like this, and I'm looking down, and I see that same guy, and I see another guy now, and they're walking around this water. They're looking around, and they're talking to other individuals, basically saying, hey, there's a kid down here and we can't get him. And so I'm watching that, and again, it's like I'm watching, and I know I'm down there, I guess, but then at the same time, I'm like, I'm not down there, and man, it sucks to be that kid. And so it was this sense of being removed from this body. But when I was in that state, I was very curious, and I was still me. I was still Brian. And then as I was watching, I kind of looked over, and I saw my parents behind that boulder, and they're hanging out and they're fine. And I saw my sister, and she was in one of those little waiting areas, and they were fine. And they had no idea what was going on. And as I kept raising up, I got to what appeared to be the tree line. And when I got up to the tree line, there was this I mean, it was literally like a doorway. It was like, and it just opened, and it was like Star Trek looking, and I didn't get sucked through. I just kind of passed through, and as soon as I passed through, I was in this infinite nothingness, and I had the way that I described it before was I'm a sci-fi nerd. I mean, I love science fiction and stuff, and it's almost as if you took a starship or whatever and went all the way out to the center of the universe, and you got dropped off, and they shot away and left you. It was that vast. It was this vastness. And but what was also interesting, as I noticed, is I had zero fear. In fact, I felt so unbelievably comfortable that it didn't make sense. It was so comfortable, so wonderful. And it was, which was odd because it was such a vast space that you think you would feel like a speck of dust. But I didn't. And I remember specifically floating around in this space, and I took my left hand and I put it on my right arm, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I can feel myself. I'm a, because I had, now I knew I was no longer in my body, and I knew that I was something else. But it was very interesting because I literally felt myself. I'll never forget it. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to tell people that you can feel ghosts. I was like, ghosts are real. People who cross over are real. Like, I can't wait to tell everyone. And it's not, it's not whatever woo woo. And as I was kind of exploring my arm, I looked out, and again, it was these pinpricks of light everywhere. But there was one light in particular that kind of stuck out, and it was way off in the distance. And I remember kind of putting my attention to it and looking at it. And the second I kind of put my attention to it, I started moving towards it. And it 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 didn't appear very fast. It was just more of like a gentle tug. It was, and there was nothing that was being said or anything like that. It was just like, we're gonna go on a ride, and you're gonna come here. But what I noticed was, as I was moving towards this light, the feeling that started to come over me was, number one, it was a warmth. But again, and this is hard to explain, in human terms, but it was almost like a warmth that um, was all encompassing at the same time. Like if I go outside right now, the sun's shining, and I stand up and I look at, and I'm not looking at the sun, but sun's in my face, my back's going to be shaded, right? I'm going to feel different in my back as my front. This was different. This was as if my entire body was getting all warm at the same time at every level. And as I got closer to this light source, I also noticed that this feeling of love started to come over me. And this was very interesting too. Again, trying to explain this. When you say love, it's like, oh, I love you. I love you too. And okay. And this was this was different. This was like um, this was a love that hit me on every level. This was a love that was the purest love, and without anything tied to it. There was no fear, there was no shame, there was no guilt, because that all of those emotions, those ego-like emotions, did not exist on whatever frequency, wave, or whatever dimension I was in. Whatever that was, it didn't exist there. It's just like the if the color red didn't exist and someone tried to tell me what red was, I would have no concept of what red was, because it didn't exist. So fear and all of those negative emotions that we experience here on earth, that we try to get through or think through or breathe through, or whatever, drug ourselves to get away, that did not exist. And so as I'm moving towards this light, which is now I can feel on every core of my being, I started to feel this permeation of love and acceptance. And the closer I got, the more intense it got. And it was, I don't want to say it was overwhelming, because it wasn't, because everything was right. But I would say if it was a human interaction, it would have been too much. It would have been way too much for one human to experience. And as I got closer, it was as if every single cell, atom, molecule of my body was fusing with this light. And as that was happening, I became aware of everything. And I became aware of the, the universe as a whole, to different souls, to people, to energies, to all timelines, to everything that had ever been, I was aware of. And I was able to sit with that, with a comfortable knowing that not only was this right, that the this was the truth. Like this was the real story. Like this was the real side. Like I had been living in a illusion for those 14 years, and I had been broken out of the illusion, and this was the real place. And it was such a knowing that it was like, my God, how could I have ever forgotten? Like, how did I not know that this was here? And so again, I'm millions of thoughts going through my mind as I'm experiencing this. Finally, I get to this, I kind of land, I call it, I almost like kind of like land at this pad of I don't know, like a room. And in this room, there was this door. And it's funny, the door looks like the wall that I built behind me, which I didn't realize until after I built it, which was very interesting. But there was a door that looked like the wood behind me, only it was a oval looking door. And as soon as I kind of landed at this door, I could see the light coming through the cracks of the wood. And that light was even more intense than what I was experiencing. It was so, if you can wrap your head around that one for a minute, the light that I was experiencing, where I was experiencing the almost the the total aspect of everything, that was nothing compared to what was beyond that door. So if you can wrap your head around that one for a minute, the light that I was experiencing, where I was experiencing the almost the the total aspect of everything, that was nothing compared to what was beyond that door. So as I landed there, I'll never forget, it was right off to my left hand side. There was a voice, and it just said, um, "Welcome home, Brian." And I said, "It's so good to be home." In my mind, I was like, what the heck took you guys so long? Like, I was like, my God, and I just, I knew that I was home. And not only that, I knew everything was perfect. Everything was exactly the way it was supposed to be. And then as I'm standing there in front of this doorway, I started thinking about my parents. I started thinking about my friends and everything in my whole life. And I'm just running these scenarios in my head. I'm like, they'll be fine. I'll see them very soon, and they'll be perfectly fine. And I'm home. Why wouldn't they be happy for me? Like, why there's no reason to have any sadness because I'm home. And again, because I've told patients this one, not all of them, but sometimes patients whose loved ones have crossed. And I was like, when you're on that vibration, you don't have any feelings of sadness or sorrow or fear. That doesn't exist there. So the only scope, the only lens that you're looking through is love. And it's a love that not only am I, not only is the source in front of me, I am that source. So I am a simple photon, but I am as a much part of this source as this source is me. And that's the part where I wasn't so much going to God in the sense of the old man on a throne or whatever. I was returning back to a source energy that I was a part of, but this entity or this source being was infinite. It was infinite, and we had done this a bazillion times. We've done this routine, and it was like I was just coming back and probably going to get sent back out. So when I was thinking about them, I was like, they're fine. It's okay. I'll see them quickly enough. And so this voice was, again, off to my left hand side, and it said, "Well, Brian, would you like to stay or would you like to go?" And I said, um, again, I was like, I'm home. Like, why would I ever want to leave? And they said, I'm sorry, Brian. There is, um, this is not your time. There is much you need to do. And it was said exactly like that. It's not your time. There's much you need to do. And the second I was getting ready to go, because I was almost like, oh no. Like, and I was reaching out for that door. And next thing I know, I was um, back. Sorry, I was back in my body, and it was it's it's like when when you experience um, that level of connection, like when you experience that intimate level of love and acceptance, and you're put back into this uh, very small. Uh, I joke around that I'm like flesh suit. When you're put back into this small flesh suit, uh, it's. I mean, the word is it's brutal. It's brutal. It's you know, and and I think too, because I've had many years to think about it, that being the age of 14 and having that experience, you know, it was almost too much. It was I I think I think I lost um innocence that day. And um because I was shown infinity and it was taken away.